it's Ginny from Homestead Corner. Today I want to talk a little bit about bugging out with your dog. Bugging out with your dog can definitely change your chances. It is going to throw a whole bunch of new stuff into the mix of survival. Now, not everybody is going to jump and run and bug out with their dog. A lot of people are going to stay put. Some people will not leave their pets and they'll stay home, and life and death situations, they still will not leave because they have no place to go with their pets. They're not sure what to do, and that's their choice. Each person, it's going to be extremely different for. Some people are going to leave their pets behind. They have no plan. They don't know what to do with the dog. Sometimes animals can make it much more difficult if your dog isn't prepared for this and you aren't prepared for it. So there's a lot of things to consider when you're thinking about bugging out with your dog. So I thought we'd go over some of those things just so you have an idea and you can get your plan in place. We need to start off by having a plan for ourselves and our family. If you have children, a spouse, anyone that lives with you, if bugging out is definitely a last resort. It is not something that people do lightly, and it's down to the wire, because if you have to bug out and it's that severe, you ain't coming back. If you've got to go into the woods, then your survival chances, you need to know what you're doing and you need to be extremely careful. People that are not prepared to take their pets, they're not horrible people. Not everybody can do it. Not all pets are able to do it. If you're bugging out in a car, it's going to be very different than if you're bugging out on foot. If you have got to head out into the mountains or you're headed out into the woods, that's a very different situation than jumping in the car. If you're bugging out to grandma's house, make sure grandma is aware that that dog, cat, bird, rat, lizard, whatever you have for a pet is going to come with you. They need to be fully aware and okay with you bringing pets, not just yourself. So you need to make sure of that. Get your bug out plan in order, and if you're going to take your pet, make sure that's in order as well. And not only stocking your own food, you need to stock food for your dog also. When you're considering bugging out with a pet, you need to make sure that that animal is, even when it gets spooked, it's going to stick with you. It's not going to take off, and it's going to listen to you. It's going to heel when you tell it to, and it's going to come when you tell it to. So some of the things that I think are so important to consider is to make sure that your bug out plan for you and your family is set in stone. You know what's got to happen to make you leave, where you're going to go, what kind of stuff you need to take with you, and how long about you're going to be there. Is it going to be indefinite? Could be permanent. You need to figure out about what it's going to be. If you live in a big hurricane area and you have to bug out when big hurricanes come in, then you are probably used to getting these plans in place and stuff like that. So having your bug out plan for whatever disaster it is that you have. You may have a tornado disaster plan. You may have, collapsed society, food shortages when people start to get crazy. I mean, there are a bunch of different things can happen. Tons of different natural disasters, earthquakes, fires, all that stuff. We need to be prepared for all of those. So once you've got your plan set in stone, you want to make sure that you've got something, then you're going to work on your dog. Once you're set in stone, then you're going to work on pets, dog, whatever it is. Mostly dogs, because if you're going out, if you've got to leave on foot, a hamster is going to be very difficult to carry through the woods. A cat is not going to stay with you. They're going to take off unless you've got this cat trained it's going to be difficult. Even with a dog, if your dog isn't trained, it's going to be extremely difficult for your dog because it's under different circumstances. It might be fearful of gunfire that it hears. It might hear, crazy winds, all the animals that are out there. It's going to spook your animal. So having your animal trained is super important. You obviously love your pet or you wouldn't be considering this. This is definitely a big undertaking to take an animal with. You also want to weigh the pros and cons. There are pros and cons to everything. So some of the pros could be, that they're there for companionship. Sometimes it helps, especially if you have small children. If the dog is there, it helps soothe them, or, that family pet. It could be definitely a companion, or if you're all alone, you're going to take your animal for warmth. Maybe you're going to curl up with your dog to be able to you don't have anybody else. If you're single and out in the woods, that can be very helpful to have that heat from an animal and, curl up with your dog when you're sleeping and stuff. And also another pro is protection. Your dog can protect you. If your dog is trained, dogs are very protective of the people that take care of them. They love them. They're family to them. Some of the cons that definitely can play a factor in this is you're going to need to carry extra supplies for that animal. That's more on your back that you have to carry. Also, there's a security problem. And they can definitely give away your location if you're out in the woods. They're gonna bark. They're going to be a little spooked. You want to make sure this animal is totally prepared. They're also another mouth to feed. You need to know if your plan is to bug out off trail into the woods, whatever that plan is. Once you run out of dog food, and eventually you can only carry so much. I mean, realistically, you need to know what kind of wild foods your dog can eat besides what you can eat. I mean, you pretty much know what you can eat, I'm sure, but dogs have a different diet. They're not going to be able to eat everything that you eat, and you want to make sure that you're able to identify wild foods that are good for your pet. You also want to consider the responsibility. You are responsible for this animal. If you're trekking up the side of a mountain and you're planning on clearing 10 miles a day, which is a pretty big feat, and you're moving pretty fast, but that animal maybe used to staying home and laying by the fire, or, you want to get your dog ready, or, so you can get out there and have plenty. They're going to need that energy, and you're going to need extra food for them, more calories. Just like you will need more calories to do something like that, your dog does too. Also, you want to think about, can they keep up with you? So if you have to move at a pretty fast pace, can they keep up with you? Obviously, they're going to in the short term, but if you've got to do this for 8 hours and you're moving quite quickly, it may be difficult for your animals to keep up. So you've got to consider that as well. They might slow you down. Not all animals are going to, but some could definitely slow you down. And you want to be prepared for that. You want to take into consideration their age, any training that they have, if they have no training, the climate, the terrain, things like that. All that stuff is going to play a factor in it, and you really need to pay attention to those things and think about, is your dog going to be able to handle this? Are you going to be able to handle this with the dog, all that extra responsibility? So I definitely think if you are going to bug out with your dog, I think it's really important to start training right now. Get your dog out in the woods. Go for walks. Increase those walks over time. Take them hiking. Take them camping. Get them into the woods or something like that. If this is your plan, and you really want to take your animal with you, then you need to get them prepared, and it will help prepare you as well. If you're out there walking and increasing your walking and all that stuff, it's really going to help you too. So once you've decided that's it, the dog's coming with you, then you need to get ready and get a doggy bug out bag packed. You know, they have little bags that go over your dogs so they can carry their own food. Our dogs that we used to have when, you know, when they were still here, we have new dogs now, um, but our old dogs had little saddle bags and just little pouches, just like a horse, saddle bags. And they make them so, you know, you want to make sure they fit really, really well. You want them to be up closer to the front, you know, up on their shoulders. You don't want them way down on the back. You don't want that weight resting down there because that's just not going to be good for their back. So up towards the shoulders is where most of it's going to be. You want it to fit really well. And you're going to want to get some food in there, as much food as you can. And you know, your dog is going to have to eat what you eat after that food's gone. You're going to have to make sure that you get food for them because the dog is only going to carry so much food, and you will probably put some food in your bug out bag too if you have any room and you can handle the little extra weight. Also in those bags, we found that we used to hike all the time. That's why our dogs had little saddlebags, and they would carry their own water, their own treats, their own food, everything right in those bags. And collapsible water bowls are excellent. You can get some really lightweight ones. So you want it to be as light as possible so the dog has as much stamina as they can, just like your bug out bag. You want to think in terms of you know, things that they need, any kind of medicines that they might need or anything like that. We always carried like Benadryl in there. We have, you know, some of the dogs have more sensitivities. Also, you might want to throw in some flea and tick medicine or something if you're going to be out there for a while. Also, some kind of antibiotic cream, triple antibiotic ointment is great. Some gauze, bandages, a little vet wrap because they're sticky and you don't have to. The vet wrap is wonderful because when you wrap something, it sticks to itself and it stays. It works really good for animals. We use it on people too, but it works really well. I'll put links to a lot of this stuff in the description down below. If it's not something that you have, you know, you can check it out and see if you might be able to get it locally also. And you also want to make sure that you have tweezers in there or like a tick thing, because when you take animals out in the woods, they're getting ticks. Oh my God, my dogs have always got ticks. We live in the woods, so my dogs, if they go outside for 5 seconds, they're bringing ticks in. So that's something that you want to consider. Is make sure that you have tweezers or a little tick spoon or tick key or whatever you call them, but you can kind of scoop it off with it. But they sell them and they're really inexpensive, so it's definitely something that you could get and put in their bag. It's just a little teeny. And that is it for this video. If you're considering taking your dog and bugging out, if that's your plan, then you really need to look at all of the circumstances and see what you're able to do and what your dog is able to handle as well. So that's it for this video. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.